I want to compare these two approaches: traditional new product development approach or sequencer approach, and flexible or cross-functional team approach. I already talked about unique characteristics of each one of these approaches. The first one is how many functions get involved at a time. So the traditional approach involves only one function at a time, whereas flexible new product development process involves multiple functions simultaneously. And we also talked about the communication pattern. And then the traditional approach, it's one directional communication from upstream to downstream. There is, there is not much interaction. There is not much interaction between these two functions. Whereas in the flexible approach, there is constant feedback and feed-forward communication. And therefore, I said that the communication and interaction is kind of continuous. Now, I want to talk about these advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. We already know that the reason why there was concurrent engineering was that the time-based competition became an important strategic condition. And as you can see, the original benefit envisioned by people in the early period is this reduction in product development project lead time. In other words, there is a huge reduction in terms of lead time, and obviously that was the original motivation. That was which was considered as the most important benefit we can have by using this cross-functional team approach of concurrent engineering. But obviously that's not the best one. But the lead time reduction is one advantage for flexible approaches. Whereas in traditional approach, it is simple, very clear. In other words, you don't have to worry about some other functions. You just give one direction communication. You just mention that you need to do this, and so on and so forth. So it's very simple. Simplicity is one benefit we can expect from traditional approaches. And some people might say that there is enhanced accountability because it seems like very clear. It seems like very clear that everybody knows what he or she is expected to do, and therefore when something goes wrong, it's easy to identify who's responsible for what. On the surface, I want to agree with that statement, but somehow I'm not comfortable with that as one of these advantages of a traditional approach, because is that accountability is right kind of accountability, or is it kind of accountability for the convenience, right? I mean that if we use this traditional approach, is it true that everybody feels responsible for what they're doing? It's not clear. Maybe the accountability may go down. So that's why I put here, on the surface, in a superficial level, we might say that the accountability will go up, but in reality, maybe the true accountability go down. Okay, so we needed to think about this for a long time. And then I want to look at the second advantage of flexible approach, which is problem solving capability increases. Let me explain what it is. Okay, let's say again, this is the general context of these two approaches. Let's look at the sequencer traditional approach first. Suppose there is some mistake in the concept. Maybe it's not a big mistake, but let's say, concept people developed their own concept for the products and services, but in fact those products cannot be made by the existing manufacturing system for whatever reasons. I mean that maybe there is some incompatibility between the concept and manufacturing. But if we use a sequencer approach, the concept will be delivered to design, and only design people look at the concept, and they don't find anything wrong in the concept because they do not know anything about manufacturing at the same time, right? So design, recognizing no problem at all, complete its own design, and it releases the design to a prototype. And prototype, after receiving design from design function, and without knowing what's happening in manufacturing, the prototype people complete the prototype in their own way, and then they deliver the prototype to manufacturing. But suddenly, when manufacturing people look at this old prototype, they realize that with the current manufacturing system, they cannot make that. In other words, they cannot realize the concept 100% as expected by concept developers. In other words, there is a huge discrepancy between concept and manufacturing. So we cannot actually make that product using the current manufacturing system. That's a really serious problem. And therefore, probably manufacturing people want to fix the problem. There are a couple of ways. There are a couple of methods they can use to fix the problem. What is the most important? What is the most fundamental solution? The fundamental solution is you go back to concept again, and then you fix the problem in the concept development. So you go back. You actually go to the concept. But the thing is that is it possible organizationally? Concept people, do you think the concept people will acknowledge their mistake and they are happy to get this late notice from manufacturing people? Probably not. And in that sense, I would say that the accountability may go down. Although it looks like very straightforward and very simple, but in reality, they don't want to accept their own mistakes. That's too damaging to themselves. So there might be some resistance, some organizational resistance against this going back to the concept, right? There are some other practical issues as well, because this is a sequencer approach. Once the concept finishes its work for this particular project, the concept people will move to another project or different project, right? So even if we go back to the concept, probably the original concept developers not available, maybe, right? It's pretty possible. They work on other project, or it's a long time ago, therefore they don't remember anything. That may happen. Or there is a third possibility. We already here, in other words, we need to introduce our product very shortly. In short period of time, we have to introduce a new product to the market. But if you go back to the very beginning, it's too late, right? It's too late. So it's not possible to go back to the very beginning and to work step by step from the very beginning. So there are a couple of reasons why it's not feasible to go back to the concept under this sequencer traditional approach. If they cannot go back to the concept to fix the problem fundamental level, if that's not possible, what can they do? They can do some ad hoc solutions, maybe informal and ad hoc incomplete solutions, and that will actually increase the possibility of quality failure. Especially we know that if the problem is not resolved at the manufacturing stage, then the quality will go down significantly. On the contrary, in the flexible new product development approach, when concept is developed, manufacturing people working together, and therefore whenever concept is done, manufacturing people have a chance to give their own feedback, their own assessment, their own evaluation, and therefore concept can incorporate the manufacturing ideas and feedbacks and manufacturing suggestions in concept development, and therefore they can actually identify the problem earlier. In other words, they can identify these operations problems early, and therefore we would say the problem solving capability enhances significantly. So I would say that that's very important benefit using flexible approaches. And then there is another advantage for flexible or cross-functional approaches related to this risk exposure. Let's define what the risk exposure means. We know that you probably heard about this. Some people say, let's say there is engineering freeze. What does that mean? Or you can say that there is concept freeze. That means that after this concept freeze point, you cannot make any change to the concept. In other words, concept is absolutely fixed at this point of time, the concept freeze. So everything is just frozen at the time, at that particular moment. So let's think about the time between the concept freezes. So here I would say this is a concept freeze, and then this is the sales starts, or manufacturing starts, or new product is introduced in the market. Then what is this period from this concept freeze to the actual market launch date? I call that as risk exposure period. Why is it risk exposure? This is a pretty vulnerable period for the company. In other words, what if something happens during that time period? You cannot change your concept. You cannot incorporate what's happening in the market during that period of time into your new product. What might happen? There are two things can happen. First, customer requirement or customer needs might change, right? When the concept was developed, yellow was the choice of yellow was the color chosen by the company because they believed that the company believed that yellow will be a huge hit when they introduced the new product. But what happened? Think about it. It might happen that during this period of time, because of some unknown factors, because of some unknown events, people change their taste, and red becomes more popular than yellow. So during this period of time, customers' requirements and customer needs changed, but the company cannot incorporate that change into its new product because they already froze everything there. Let's look at the flexible new product development approach here. The concept is frozen at this period of time, at this time, and then there is risk exposure period, which is much shorter compared with this one. Okay, compared to this traditional approach, the risk exposure period is much shorter. That means that if the company uses flexible new product development approach, they don't have much risk, where actually their risk level is very small, or much smaller compared with that of sequencer approaches. That's what's happening here, right? So risk exposure goes down, therefore incorporating changing customer requirements possible, and incorporating cutting edge technological innovation was possible. What does that mean? That means that customer requirements changes during this period, and also it's possible that there might be some huge technological innovation occurs during this risk exposure period. And similarly, if the company uses traditional approach, it's not easy to incorporate this technological innovation that happens during this risk exposure period into the new product development. And in that sense, flexible approach has a huge advantage, right? Using flexible or cross-functional team approach, you can incorporate the changing customer requirements faster, more effectively, and likewise the possibility to incorporate the cutting-edge technological innovation into your new product, the possibility will increase as well. And as a result, the product quality might go up, and the product performance eventually might go up as well. And now let's think about these disadvantages. Disadvantages for traditional approach. These are most of the cross-functional teams' advantages, right? In other words, lead time will go up, risk exposure will go up, and problem-solving capability goes down. That's major disadvantages for these traditional or sequencer approaches. What about the disadvantages of flexible or cross-functional team approaches? Some people actually said that there will be huge confusion and complexity will go up. It's kind of reasonable because there are multiple functions get involved. So at a particular point of time, many functions communicate with each other, many functions work with each other, and therefore confusion goes up and complexity goes up. Some even say that it's not concurrent engineering, it's concurrent chaos. Of course, if the company fails to manage this whole process reasonably, then the company must face concurrent chaos. Because of the confusion, because of this complexity increase, the communication load increases and coordination costs will go up. And also we can see that resource waste and duplication increases as well. Maybe you know because many functions work together simultaneously. Some of them might do the same thing, maybe even without knowing what are the functions doing. So there is some form of resource waste, and duplication goes up, and that will actually increases the cost, overall cost. And we might want to say that accountability will go down, but again, what kind of accountability? Is it true accountability, or it's superficial accountability? And I also get some feedback from my students saying that in reality, in the actual situation, when they applied this approach, employees exhausted and employee morale went down significantly. I'm not sure whether this is actual cost or result due to results from failure. Okay, failure to manage this new cross-functional team approaches effectively, then you can have this kind of consequences. Anyway, I think that these advantages and disadvantages are kind of obvious. It seems like it's reasonable. We can expect that these kind of things occur. So now it's very interesting to note that there are many advantages, and also there might be many disadvantages. So whenever the company has to decide whether it should adopt flexible approaches or it should adopt traditional approaches, the company must compare cost and benefit, disadvantages and advantages. So we would say cost benefit analysis is the key. Cost benefit analysis is the key when we try to decide which approach is most appropriate for our company. And let's look at how we can do, at least conceptually, how we can do this cost benefit analysis in an effective way.